Hello, everybody. Good evening. This is Cheyenne Jenvey with the podcast Dragonfly Discussions, Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. I hope you are having a good evening and you had a good week. And I will read the safe comments in the safe parameters in the comments, and then we'll begin. Welcome to my podcast, Dragonfly Discussions. You're welcome to enter your name and location you are from. Sorry, I had an alert on my computer. A location you are from. I am thrilled you are listening. I hope you enjoy this session together. Safe space reminder, please use your own safe space parameters amongst the chapters I read, which may arouse emotions or memories of your own. You're welcome to excuse yourself or stay. And that also pertains to anything just off the cuff that I might talk about. Tonight, I am going to change it up a little bit before we begin chapter reads. So again, just use your own safe parameters. You can leave or stay. That's up to you. I'm not here to babysit you. We're all hopefully adults here. But I do want to kind of address something that I brought up openly on social media, and it aroused a whole bunch of responses, mostly good, mostly loving, mostly good, but some were a little bit, I don't know, judgy or critical, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. But I've had a rough 3 weeks. Okay. It has not been easy. I have been kicked out of my church that I never thought ever would happen. And it's happened. And I'm welcome to come back in 3 months without being at all involved in the church. I just was going through an email and saw that they do welcome me back in 3 months, but I would have to sign this covenant of right relations and obey to their policies of how I'm going to behave. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, that I did wrong in the first place. So this is all really, really hard. And part of me is like, why would I want to come back? Like, why would I want to come back to you? You've obviously made it clear I'm not welcome, and I don't deserve a fair chance at seeing the evidence, and I don't deserve a chance at any kind of forgiveness. So it's like, then I'm going to have to walk on tippy toes and like a little kid, around my church. I mean, then I'm going to come back and tell everybody, hey, I'm back, but I got to behave. Like, it just seems so weird. And then I looked at it as, it hit my identity. It hit my sense of belonging. It hit my level of trust. It took me away from a community that I had built for 6 years, and friendships and relationships and hugging and that energy and the communication and just the atmosphere. And it was a hard blow. And I'm not saying how I handled it was inappropriate. I'm not saying that I'm ashamed of how I've handled these past 3 weeks, but in retrospect, I think a lot of what I'm going through and what I'm reading in this book and what I'm reliving also triggers things. And so it might have triggered something to cause such a drastic avenue that I was thinking about doing. And it's just been really hard. I've been trying to find my own spirituality. What do I do on Sundays now? I got to reinvent the wheel a little bit. I've tested out some ideas, they didn't work. And so I'm still figuring it out. But I was really involved with my church, right? I was really involved. And one of the biggest passionate projects that I became involved with from the get-go was the Holiday Gift Bag Project, which serves 2,500 women in Chowchilla Prison. And it gives levels 1 through 5, or A yard through A, B, C, D, E, A through F yard, E yard. So it's kind of all the better behaving inmates, or incarcerated people, I should say, forgive me, a chance at having like gift bags for Christmas. And so for 2,500 women, we give these holiday gift bags that are full of hot cocoa packet, tea packet, coffee packet, a toothbrush, a pencil, a pen, a colored pencil, a variety of like 8 cards of like your blanks and maybe your Christmases and your everything else's, which could be birthdays and Mother's Days, Father's Days, anniversaries, which the ladies love the cards. And then you get a lip balm, an emery board. And the lip balms are like vanilla flavored, jasmine, banana, strawberry. And the emery boards are all like beautiful. They have like rainbows on them, like a design on the emery board, and like happy faces and flowers and kitty cats. And I'm telling you, if you're an incarcerated person, and you're getting these beautiful things, it is like gold. It is like the sun shining right through the walls. It is like love vibrating right at you, and it makes you disappear away from those prison walls and into somebody who is worthy of love, worthy of this emery board, worthy of this lip balm, worthy of this flavorful tea and this fun, flavorful candy cane. And like, it just really does so much to these ladies. And that was one project that I was really, really the most sad about, that I couldn't maybe be a part of. But thank goodness I can still be an independent representative outside the UU Church. I'm just not affiliated with the UU Church. I'm doing it all on my own, and I got to figure out that. But I can keep my email list of almost 100 people that I have built in these 6 years. So I could keep that email list, and I can keep sending out the email blurbs of our monthly needs, which, rotate amongst all the things that go in that one bag for Christmas. And so I can still be a part of something that brings me joy, brings me absolute joy. And if you are interested, it's the Holiday Gift Bag Project. You could reach out to me somehow. There's ways to reach out to me on social media, Facebook, YouTube. You can message me here. There's all kinds of ways to find me and get involved with this wonderful project. But we collect items all year round, and I'm going to continue to be the liaison, just an independent liaison for the Holiday Gift Bag Project, serving 2,500 women in Chowchilla Prison. So that brings me a lot of joy. So I got through that. I got through the final, what all is going to happen to me and the church, and then everybody pouring in their support and their feedback and their wanting to fight for me, and then realizing there is nothing to fight for. They've made their decision. And so I felt really low. Once again, I'm being rejected. I'm being just not valued. And this has been the theme throughout my whole entire life. Like, if you've been following, people have tried to sabotage me. My birth mother rejected me when I was born. My grandfather hated me. Many women have hated me throughout recovery. People have tried to sabotage me in recovery. People have misjudged me, and so I tried to have to fight and fight and fight against all these people who, I don't know what it is, but it seems to be a pattern. And to be rejected by your church, that's I think besides being rejected from your family, the church is the second most hurtful place to be rejected by, because you would think a church would be loving and a safe environment and something that would never do something like that. But in actuality, people have been rejected by their churches for centuries, centuries. And the Christians have kicked people out. The Catholics have kicked, the Mormons have kicked people out. So why not the UU? Why not the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno or church kick people out? I mean, someone reached out to me who found his own sexual identity later on in life, and his church kicked him out because homosexuality is a sin, and that AIDS and HIV was brought here to punish homosexuality or homosexuals and punish them. Like, what a lie. What a horrible thing. And that was his father telling him these things about his own son, all because he was just deciding to now come out and reveal that he's homosexual. So last week, I had a really bad moment of just wanting to give up. After talking with my liaison over the Holiday Gift Bag Project and realizing that the church, nobody that was fighting for me, the church was not going to give me any chance of coming to the middle. And I was just like, it just still blew my mind. It still blew my mind. And then it all came into one big reality check, and it was like, nope, they've rejected you. You have nothing to offer. You are worthless. Like, why should you even bother with the holiday gift bag? Why should you? All these negative thoughts, right? All of this negative stuff. And I do struggle with bipolar. It's acute bipolar, but I still have ups and downs that are very extreme. And I just fell into this really bad pity party, and I wanted to die. I did. I wanted to die. And I think it was triggered by last week's reading, because last week's reading talked about me leaving my ex-boyfriend and going into my own apartment in Fresno, in a place where I didn't plan on staying and living here, and then wanting to relapse. So, and I had tried, but it scared the crap out of me, and I didn't do it ever again, right? So that was like something that must have been lingering there, and the enemy must have grabbed on to that thought, because last week I had thoughts of wanting to commit suicide, wanting to not shoot myself or cut my wrists or anything like that. It was wanting to relapse on cocaine and heroin and shoot myself up in the veins and just die by an overdose. And that scared me, of course. And I'm making these beautiful diamond art coasters, and I'm meditating, I'm doing, whatever. It's therapy for me to make these crafts. And all of a sudden this dark negative thought comes into my head again about drugs and relapsing and just die. Nobody cares about you. And I'm like, this is not okay. And so it was at the same time where Kimberly had called me and we talked about everything. And I had opened up to her about these thoughts. And I had talked to her, because she's a very spiritual woman. She's from Wesley Methodist Church. And they're Methodists, but they're very open-minded as well. And I had just told her these thoughts, because I figured I got to say this out loud. Otherwise, if I keep it quiet, then it's going to have power. It's going to grow even more power. So I had told her that I was having all of these negative thoughts, and that, because I'm a analyzer. I will analyze everything and think about things and ponder things and question things and look at things and try to learn. And so I'm like, and I told her that I'd had these thoughts. And so it almost instantly released the power of those thoughts. And so I thought, well, you know what? Why don't I go on social media and share my own same reflection and share that the fact that here I am. Yeah, I appear very strong, and I am very, very strong. I am very, very strong. But even strong people have their weak moments. And so I figured, why not let this horrible, horrible feeling be exposed for everything that it needs to be exposed so that I can get the most support, right? Because the last thing I want to do is keep it quiet and me struggle with these thoughts alone. So I voiced it out on a social media post and I said, hey, I'm doing much better, but I did have these thoughts of suicide and I was thinking about relapsing, but I made it through and I pushed it through. And I remembered how I promised my dad I would never relapse. And I promised my dad I would keep going and that I have 21 years sober and that it's not worth it. This is not going to be the way it's going to end. I'm going to get through this. And so ever since, and that was like last Wednesday, I think it was. Ever since, I have had the most miraculous messages from the universe. And I also shared in my last reading about hawks and how my dad passed away. And after his passing, I would see all these random hawks and that I found the hawk to be my spirit animal, right? So last Saturday, I had a book event all the way in Chico, which is like 4 hours away. All the way back and forth, randomly, I counted 16 hawks. 16 hawks. They would be circling in the air. They'd be up on light posts or, posts or telephone poles, whatever, along, or trees along my drive. 16. I am not kidding. And that's the most I've ever seen. That's the most I've ever seen in one day. I'm lucky if I can count. Cleo, stop. She's being a brat. I'm lucky if I see like 3. Cleo. She's pulling on this thing. So it started instantly from me denying those thoughts, breathing, saying no to those thoughts, just continuing on with my plan and my plans that I had arranged and not giving up. And then I get graced with 16 hawks. I didn't sell any books, but that's okay. I was incredibly blessed. And then it's been nonstop since then. The monks, I don't know if you've been following the monks, but the monks did a long, like 3-month walk all across America into Washington, D.C. And it was to support peace and promote peace that we need it so much in our United States and in our world. So I've been following them. And it's also the Lunar New Year that's happening right now. So there's a lot going on, right? And so when I posted that post on social media, one of my friends from my rehab, my last rehab, Tim Waugh, who I met in Chicago, reminded me of some scriptures. And I'm not a big Bible thumper. Gosh, we might not get into chapter 6. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, but it's really phenomenal what I want to share. But Tim Waugh knows me very well, and he spoke prophecy over me in Chicago, and I am living that prophecy that he spoke over me. So he commented on Facebook saying, and reminded me of this scriptures. God sees your heart. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16 dot 7. Do not give up. Do not let disappointment steal your calling. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Galatians 6:9. This is not the end of your story. It may just be God repositioning you for something healthier, safer, and stronger. He is not finished with you. And he goes on, just because people closed a door doesn't mean God did. David was rejected by his own family before he was anointed king. And I've been rejected by my family. Joseph was rejected by his brothers before he ruled Egypt. Jesus himself was rejected by religious leaders. Rejection by people is not rejection by God. The Bible says, the Lord is near to those who have a broken heart and saves such as have a contrite spirit. Psalm 34:18. God draws closer when people push away. And remember this, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. Churches are run by people. Jesus is not. Although I'm not a Jesus thumper, like I think Jesus was a cool dude, but Jesus was given to us as an example of God. So I go straight to God. So Jesus is God in my opinion. So why talk to Jesus? I can talk to God. So God is my ultimate therapist. Jesus is not. Even when others misjudge you, God sees your heart. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at, which is the heart. Yeah. And that goes on to what I was saying. So how cool of that to receive that message, right? And then we are in February 17th is the year of the fire horse. And if you're any kind of, I don't know, celestial, you believe in all of the Chinese lunar year and all of those things that have to do with the constellations and whatnot, then there's real truth in all of this. So at the same time I'm going through all of this, here's what February 17th, the year of the fire horse says. From February 17, 2026 to February 5th, 2027, that's a long time. We enter the year of the fire horse, a rare and powerful cycle that appears only once every 60 years. The high energy year is all about passion, rapid change, which is relevant to me, and fierce independence. Fierce independence. I got that. It shakes up old systems. So old systems could be depending on the church for 6 years, which now has gotten me kicked out and not appreciated. Challenges what no longer works. Again, maybe the church and the way things were going, it no longer works, right? And pushes us toward bold transformation and personal growth. I love transformation. Dragonfly goes through transformation. Butterflies go through transformation. And personal growth. That's the essence of life, really, is personal growth. Get ready to move fast. Think big and embrace change. So if this speaks to you, it definitely speaks to me. And it gave me some oomph. And that's from my friend Dope Dooms, who's a guy that I met randomly on Instagram. He, I believe, I hope I don't quote wrong, but he lives in Africa, in that region, I hope. I don't know. Yeah. He lives far away, definitely not in the US, but very, very spiritually high level minded, intellectual person who talks about that all of this is energy, to focus on the positive. Don't let those negative thoughts come into our way, that those are just pivots to us to get to the next level, to not be on ego and not be egotistical, but to be humble and appreciate that this is all a part of life, these ups and downs. I wish I could not panic so much when I'm in the middle of it. But then I'm going to leave you some things that went on from my friend Mars, who I just did an interview with, who is the holistic massage therapist. She shared new moon solar eclipse. This new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th is a powerful reset around your future self, your voice, and the life you are ready to live out loud. Eclipses accelerate timelines, and in Aquarius, this one breaks you out of old patterns of belonging, people pleasing, and shrinking to fit in. Wow. Something clicks here. A realization, a release, a sudden clarity about who you are when you stop performing and start honoring your truth. And that was also similar to dope dunes, right? What feels uncomfortable now is showing you exactly where freedom wants to expand. This eclipse does not ask for perfection or certainty. It asks for courage to think differently, to choose yourself differently, to align with the version of you that no longer negotiates their authenticity, right? It's not about them. The path forward may look unfamiliar, and it does. It looks scary. It always does. But it's honest. And that's where the magic lives. Affirmation. I release outdated identities and align with the future that feels true to me. Okay, and then just a couple more things, and then we'll finish up real quickly in 30 minutes on chapter 6. So this is from the monks, the World for Peace. This is today, what they posted today on the 17th of February, 2026. Today in our tradition, we celebrate the Lunar New Year, a sacred time of renewal, reflection, and new beginnings. As we welcome this new year, may this beautiful moment inspire all of us to begin again, to start fresh on the journey for peace, to return to what matters most, and to remind ourselves of the path we have chosen to walk together. This new year is not just the turning of a calendar. It is an invitation, a gentle, loving invitation to begin the most meaningful journey of all, the journey within. The journey within. The journey of mindfulness. Mindfulness, like being in the present, being in the moment. The journey of peace. The journey of loving kindness, compassion, and unity. May this be the beginning for all of us to walk together on this path, mindfully, peacefully, lovingly, always. May we have time in each day to practice breathing with mindfulness, returning to the present moment. May we have time in each day. May we choose peace in every breath and every action. May we be gentle with ourselves and with each other, mostly with ourselves. I know I have to be very gentle with myself and others too, but I think it starts with ourselves. If we can't be gentle to ourselves, if we can't be loving to ourselves, then we're not going to be gentle and loving to others. So it really starts with ourselves, and getting this right, and then it will exude to others. May we offer loving kindness to everyone we meet. May we walk in compassion and harmony together. May this new beginning bring renewal, healing. Healing. Healing is the word too. Is that I hope that whoever I have hurt, may it be Mariah, I hope that she heals. And I hope that I heal as well during this time. And if I don't return back, I don't know. Right now, I don't think I will, but I just hope that I also heal. That healing, no matter what loss, no matter what you've gone through, what trial, but that healing is key. If you don't heal, if you don't give yourself time to heal, then it's going to resurface later on. And it's going to just rear its ugly head and destroy something else because you haven't healed. You have to truly, truly heal. And it's a process. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Just let it take its course. As long as it may be, but you will get through it and you'll be stronger in the end because you gave yourself that time to heal. Please, healing is very important. Very important. Because the rest doesn't matter. It won't happen if you don't heal. So I'm going to repeat that again. May this new beginning bring renewal, healing, and peace to every heart, every home, and every corner of the world. This is our wish for everyone, for us, and for all beings everywhere as we step into this beautiful new year together. May you and all beings be well, happy, and at peace. And this is from the Buddhist monks. So you can look up Walk for Peace, Peace Walk, Buddhist monks, and look up what they just did. But those are some of the messages that I have been getting lately. And it's not coincidence. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm grateful and I'm stronger because of it. And we're going to finish chapter 6, which we're almost done with the book. We only have chapter 7, which chapter 7 is a really cool book. You're going to see what took place right when this book ended, pretty much. And then we're going to see what I put together. I'm working on maybe another book. So yes, that's out there, but one thing at a time, right? So we're at 7:33. We don't have much left, so I think we'll finish. But I hope that inspired you, and I hope you're not worried about me, and I appreciate your love and your support, and stay encouraged. This is a very cool lunar year that we're going to be going through. Lots of changes and growth, and I'm excited. I just got to remind myself that this is going to be this kind of year. Okay, so we're on page 227, subchapter, A Love So Beautiful. So now I'm like living on my own and I'm starting all over again, and I'm at a party and I meet this guy and he happens to be in a wheelchair. It was on a random afternoon when so we met at a party and he was in a wheelchair and he really was so handsome. He was so good looking and so, I don't know, I didn't see the wheelchair. It was on a random afternoon when I received a phone call from an unknown number. It was Brett calling me out of the blue. That was the guy in the wheelchair, Brett. Of course, I was excited and we began to get to know each other as we talked. Brett and I spent hours on the phone talking and video chatting. So we would do face chatting. Our love rapidly caught fire and together we made a great team. He showered me with flowers, cards, and love notes while I showered him with affection, love, and laughter. At first, my family was surprised and shocked, but they eventually grew to really love Brett. It was impossible not to. And what I mean by they were shocked was because I'm not really any more materialistic. I would do it all over again with somebody new, but it would be really hard. But I used to only want to date like the perfect guys, the perfect looking guys, athletic, physical, whatever, whatever. And those guys usually tended to be the biggest douches, the biggest douchebags ever. And so, my first boyfriend wasn't all that. I mean, Evan, in high school he was handsome, but he had like really bad acne, So I couldn't be that pretentious and everything. But my family was shocked that I would go out with a guy in a wheelchair. You know, who does? Who does? I mean, that's just not the norm. That's not the norm. Unfortunately, it's not the norm. And it's really sad because there are some really beautiful people who just had some really fortunate accidents. And they're still the beautiful people they are, despite their disability. So that's what I mean by my family was surprised and shocked. I was shocked. I mean, I didn't see that coming, but love is love. And Brett was so fun. He was funny and independent. You'll hear. We traveled everywhere together and took trips to the mountains for picnics. His family owned a trailer on a piece of land high up in the mountains, up in Tulare County, California. It had a view that stretched for miles, almost to the edge of the earth. We had a view that overlooked the city of Tulare County, and at night the lights were a spectacular sight. We often escaped there for romantic sunset picnics. So Brett had hand controls, and he was able to have his own car, and he drove everywhere. He was a student. He lived on his own in an apartment in Visalia. And so we'd go up to, I think it's called Rocky Hill. I believe it's Rocky Hill. And so you go up this, I think it's the 168, 198, 160, yeah, 168. What's 198? Always getting confused. We have the 168 here. It's the 198. The 198 through Visalia, all the way up through Farmersville and on up into Wood Lake and into the mountains. So he and I would go up there all the time. That was part of where I grew up a lot. I knew those backwoods areas growing up as a child in Exeter, and family driving up through the mountains. My grandfather, drunk driving, would drive us for drives throughout the hills back there. So we had a little spot, and his family had a little piece of land, and they had this trailer on this land, and it had this beautiful view, and it had a little picnic table and a little fire pit, and so we'd go up there, and it was private, so it was totally our own area. For my birthday that year in 2014, he surprised me with a trip to South Lake Tahoe and a dinner cruise on the Miss Dixie. Brett made all the arrangements and plans and surprised me with a beautiful lake view room. When we arrived, there in the lobby was a welcome sign personally made for me. It said, "Welcome, Cheyenne and Brett. Happy birthday, Cheyenne." This beautiful hotel. He had done it all. Brett had arranged the little surprise, and my heart just melted at his thoughtfulness and love. We found our room and got settled in. Then we got all dressed up for my birthday dinner on the Miss Dixie. It's a cruise boat that takes you around Emerald Bay in Lake Tahoe. We left for dinner and boarded the boat. All around the boat were red, white, and blue banner ribbons strung along the sides of the boat's railing. So that, like your typical cruise, carnival cruise, and you got like red, blue, and white banner looking streamers, like tapestry all around the outside of the boat. So there was all of that all around the boat. It was beautiful. And the Miss Dixie is a really cute little private boat. Not private, but it's small. I think like 100 people can fit on there. And they serve dinner, and they serve different things throughout the day, and then they have a dinner cruise that you can get all dressed up in, and they play music and you can dance, and then you can walk around the deck and it's all lit up with white lights, and it's really pretty. It's really pretty. And then it takes you into Emerald Bay, and Emerald Bay is like this little cove where there's a story about a queen who built this castle, and the castle's still there, and it's this beautiful castle, and it's got these stained glass windows, and like there's stories about the rug, the center rug. She had the castle built around this rug. That's how rich she was. And she wanted this really fancy rug. So it had to fit. I guess that's a queen's life. So let's see. It was also lovely and romantic. Dinner was delicious, and that night we made sweet love to each other. Oh goodness. Brett was a high-functioning quadriplegic. He couldn't walk, but had some mobility in his hands and genitals. We were able to have a wonderful sexual relationship. So most paralyzed people don't have their ability of their genitals, but Brett was a quadriplegic. He couldn't walk. He could barely use his hands. But yes, that still worked. Our relationship was uniquely different than all the others I had ever experienced before. And I loved loving him. I really did. I loved being someone that could bring him happiness. I had someone to travel with, someone to bring joy and laughter to his life. He was such a ray of light, and his paralysis didn't keep him down. Brett was the most positive person you could ever meet, and still is. Like, I don't know if I could do that. His accident was just that, an unfortunate accident. It was his 16th birthday when he and his friends were drinking and diving in the river. One fateful dive left Brett paralyzed as he dove into a shallow portion and instantly broke his neck. Thankfully, the doctors were able to do an excellent surgery. However, it left Brett to become a high-functioning quadriplegic. He was very independent, though. He lived on his own and had his own vehicle with an adaptive ability to steer with complete control. I'd never seen anything like that. It was really neat. Later that year, I went to see a medium. It was a woman who received messages from those who had passed away. So there's those psychic mediums. That's who I'm now visiting. I just felt called to go to one. As I sat there quietly while she summoned the deceased, that's what they're mainly there for, is to be a medium between you and the afterlife, your spirits or your lost loved ones or anything. She began to speak about my relationship with my stepmother and the bond we had, which was quite ironic. She began to sense my father's presence and began to tell me that she saw red, white, and blue. She said that my father was trying to say that he was there. And I didn't know what she was talking about at the time. But when I went back home, it dawned on me. It dawned on me that what she was describing was my birthday dinner cruise on the Miss Dixie. She then reiterated that my father was there that night on the Miss Dixie with me on my birthday. So yeah. So I guess, yeah, it did happen when I was in front of her. But it took a minute because I didn't know what she was talking about. It took a minute. She had to really describe, and I was like, what? So it was when I realized that my dad was there with me on my birthday at the Miss Dixie. Tears streamed down my face as I was comforted by that truth and blessing. I knew my father hadn't left me, and I felt so elated to know that he had shared my birthday with me. The session ended, and I thanked her for her messages profusely. So she also indicated that my stepmom was terribly jealous of me, and that anytime my stepmother looked at me, she saw my dad, and that it was really hard for her. So she gave me some really, and it's interesting that everything that's happened now could be what she saw. In 2014, Brett and I moved in together in a spacious 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment with a huge kitchen, living room, and dining room. There is plenty of space for Brett's wheelchair to move around. It was in the same complex I currently lived in for a discounted price. So my stepbrother was able to get me into this apartment after I left my abusive boyfriend. I moved into this place at a discounted rate. I think I was getting like $250 off rent. It was a really nice discount. And so then we moved into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and with a lot more space for everyone if we were to live together, not in my place upstairs. And we were able to get the $250 off. So it was really hella cheap between two people splitting rent. It was really nice. I decided to close my cleaning business to give myself more time to care for Brett, all the while still working at UPS part-time. So in my prior session, I had a cleaning business that I had for about a year and a half or so, started up all my own, gained my own clients, was very successful. I gave that up because it was really hard labor, honestly. And I'm living with Brett and he needs my time and care. So I became a care provider for him and was working at a pretty high stress job at UPS at this time. UPS demanded a lot of my attention, even at part-time. I was HR. So I figured, let me just focus on my relationship with Brett and my job, and then that'll be it. That'll be my life. We were excited to live together and pretty much felt like we were going to get married someday, eventually. How much do we have to go? All right, we're going to finish. I got to read fast. On October 3rd, 2015, Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, came to Fresno. So if you are familiar with the Long Island medium, Teresa Caputo, she's from, I believe, Florida. And she had a show on, I think it was A&E, and really popular show in the early 2000s. And she is able to receive messages from the dead. And people will be sitting there and she's like, yeah, I'm having a conversation with your dad or your mom or your aunt or your brother or your sister. And they're sitting, right in front of them, and they're telling her things that only a spirit would know. Only someone from the dead that would know. So she has these really unique gifts. So I wanted to see her. She's coming to Fresno. I'm like, and I was watching her show. I was always watching her show. So I purchased tickets in the standard wheelchair section. So there's like a standard wheelchair section anywhere you go to a concert. Sometimes they're on the floor. Sometimes they're up high. They're not usually the best seats. The attendant offered us closer and better wheelchair seats. Seriously, it was crazy. We got there. I was expected to just sit at this one section, and then they gave us even better seats up close, like right up by the stage. It was incredible. So we got better wheelchair seats at no additional cost when we arrived. I gladly accepted it. We entered the arena and the attendant helped us to our seats. They took us to almost right in front of the stage. Like seriously, there was the stage, there was like a crowd of people in their chairs, and then there was us. So it's the closest I think I've ever been to somebody on stage. They took us Brett and I had floor seats up close, even better seats than I could have dreamed of. What a miracle, I thought to myself. I'm like, this is crazy, right? Then Teresa came out on stage talking and telling us about her biography. She stepped down to give readings to people in the audience. So that's what she does. She starts receiving messages and she'll come down from the audience and get into the crowd and talk to you. She began to walk in my direction when she suddenly stopped and began to give me a reading on live television in front of thousands of people, not only thousands in the arena, but on national television. I'm like, this is phenomenal. I sat there as she looked at me and spoke about how I see eagles and butterflies, which is true. I don't know if it was eagles, it probably was hawks, but the same things were happening then that are still happening now. And I see butterflies, I see dragonflies, I see things that most people do not ever see. I see them. She sensed that I had a passion for writing a book. And I hadn't even started to write a book, but I had just thoughts. I was totally floored at what she was telling me. I hadn't exactly told many people about my desire to write a book. She also told me that my father was very proud of me and that something I had been dealing with was not my fault. I knew what she was referencing to. The night my father fell into the bush, and it stabbed him while on my watch. How could she have known about that? How could she have known about my book's passion? So that was really interesting. I hadn't shared anything with anybody about writing a book. And then my dad did fall when I was supposed to be holding him or walking with him on 4th of July. He fell into a bush, which stabbed his side. And I should have been holding him, but he was an independent person still. And I was giving him a little bit of leeway. So I walked ahead of him. I was on my phone talking to somebody and he fell. So I carried a lot of guilt for a long time. And it rears its head, but I know it happened the way it was supposed to happen. And it's truly not my fault. But she pointed that out and she made it so that I realized that my dad didn't blame me, that it wasn't my fault. And that was a huge, huge burden being lifted off of my chest. She looked into Brett's direction, which is the paralyzed guy that I'm dating at the time. She looked in Brett's direction, but decided to walk on. She didn't have anything. Tears flooded my eyes as Brett held me close. He knew what it all meant for me. Okay, so we're on page 231, subchapter Faith Being Tested. We might go over 8 o'clock. In 2015, I began to have severe back problems. The doctors noticed that I had a herniated disc and was going to need back surgery on my L5S1. Pretty major back surgery, lower back, right? I endured a full year of steroid injections, physical therapy, and still nothing helped to relieve the pain. I mean, I went through everything that Kaiser put me through, steroid injections, because they don't want to do surgery. That's like the last resort, right? And I was young. Well, I am young, but I was younger. And, they really didn't want to do surgery. So they put me through all this stuff. In January 2016, so we're 10 years ago, I finally had back surgery. No one showed up for the surgery. Yep, no one showed up for the surgery. And I had to endure most of it alone, which I was scared to do. It was my first major surgery after all. So, I think my stepmom, she might have been, I don't know if she was dating her new boyfriend at the time, but my stepsister was in Lake Tahoe. My stepbrother, Jason, still is never reliable. So that guy was not coming around. Brett was in a wheelchair. So, he could have drove, but he's not going to be there. I don't know. There was just nobody there. It was just really interesting that there was nobody there. Like you would think, like you wake up and there'd be people around you, No. Brett was at home. Most of my family was not around by that time. My stepsister resided in South Lake Tahoe, about 5 hours away. My stepmother was living on the other side of the country. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that part. My stepmother was living on the other side of the country in South Carolina with her new boyfriend at the time. That's right. She hooked up with a man from her past who was first living in South Carolina. That's right, Wes. Wes, that's right. So she would spend a lot of time here in Fresno, and then she would travel all the way to South Carolina and spend like 2 weeks because it's on the other side of the country. And my stepbrother, who lives in the same town as me, was too busy to bother for such things, just like I had said. No matter how scared and alone I was, I went into surgery. I woke up I woke up to the most beautiful sunrise peering into my hospital window the next morning. It was, and I have a picture of it. It's in the middle here. Because you never know. It's this one. It's this one. Oh, it's that one. Ah, that one right there. That's the sunrise peering in. Yeah, peering into the window. I took a deep breath and was filled with peace. I made it out of major back surgery alive and well. You don't know if you're going to be paralyzed too. You don't know what they're going to do wrong. I mean, surgery is pretty serious. Any kind of surgery. The nurses and doctors came to check on me and got me walking. They slowly got me up, and together we took a walk up and down the halls. Later that day, I was released from the hospital with strict instructions to rest, relax, and take it easy for the next 3 months. They literally, I don't know what other hospitals, but Kaiser got me up and walking and out of that hospital fast. Like there was no laying in bed. There was no getting sedentary. There was straight up get up, move. Let's get your body moving and your back moving and your joints lubricated. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I thought I would rest for a little bit. I had to take disability leave from work for the surgery, which allowed me up to 3 months away from work to heal. So I was on 3 months paid disability from my job. And I was HR, so I knew all the paperwork to do. I had all the paperwork already arranged, already done, already ready, so that my first payment was going to come. My first disability payment was going to come. So I'm not getting a paycheck. So my first disability payment is going to come like within 1 or 2 weeks of being on disability. So my income was still coming in, whereas a lot of people waited and they would never get paid while they were out on disability. So they would be without all that money. And then they would get it afterwards, way afterwards. And it's like, you need to prepare. You know you're going on disability. Get your shit in order, you know? But anyway, so I had everything in order. So I was able to just rest for 3 months. And that's the most time I'd ever been off work in years. So 3 months away from work to heal. It was during then that I decided to write this book. The passion for writing a book was still very much alive in me. I would often remember Pastor Tim's and Teresa Caputo's words telling me to write a book. So Pastor Tim was the guy who was telling me about the Bible and all the people in the Bible who have overcome rejection. So Pastor Tim Wah has been with me for all these years, ever since 2000. God, Pastor Tim's, he met me 2006. So he's known me 20 years now. But so I would remember everything that he prophesied into me and all of Teresa Caputo's words. And I'm like, these people are telling me to write a book. Why don't I just spend this time off work and start the book? Telling me to write a book. However, the kind of book I had in mind was an autobiography. I knew there would be parts that I never wanted to remember nor write about. Yet the desire to write an autobiography was quite strong, and so I began to journal everything out from the very beginning. I started with a basic outline, table of contents, the beginning and closing chapters, so kind of like a web and just kind of forming what they teach you in English, how to write a story. I began to jot down the details of incidences of my childhood, the details of Leroy, which was my grandfather, Debbie, which is my birth mom, then got into the horrors of my addiction. Soon my childhood's emotions and trauma started to become too much for me to relive again. It was horrific to relive, and I often cried myself to sleep from what I was remembering. So I had stuffed a lot of things away. Even though I was sober, made it out of rehab, and was, this many years sober, there was still trauma that I hadn't really dealt with until I decided to write about it. It was challenging for me to pull forward all that I had seen and endured. I had pushed a lot of that away, far into the recesses of my mind. Pulling it forward was like reliving it all over again. Writing a decent book would require me to go into detail. I knew that much. Yeah, and I had to go into detail. We're almost done. Hang in there. We will be done by no longer than 8:30. It became so overwhelming and frightful that I put my pen down, thus putting my book down. It crushed me, and I felt like a failure. I felt like all the spiritual signs and messages had been a hoax. Life moved on as I continued to care for Brett. My back was starting to get better, and I felt like a new person. Work at UPS remained demanding, requiring me to work off the clock just to stay ahead. Oh my God, UPS was so hard. It was so hard. I loved it, but it was so hard. Part-time, HR. Yeah, right. Eventually, my relationship with Brett began to change as well. Bitterness had begun to develop in my heart. Our relationship was falling apart in many ways. Brett became selfish, and I became an angry person because of it. I grew bitter towards Brett over the lack of care for my well-being before and after back surgery. I had to still care for him. I would be hunched over in pain, and that guy would be laying in bed, and I'd be relaxing in bed, and he'd be like, "I'm hungry. Can you get something for me?" And I'm like, "You can get in your wheelchair and go get it for yourself." But instead, he wanted me. So I would get up, and I'd get him his freaking snack or whatever, and I continued to help him in and out of his car. Oh my God. He needed help lifting himself into the van because it wasn't low. It was a little high. So that takes your lower back. And here I am after back surgery. And then we didn't have a sex life because I was in so much pain right before my back surgery. And so 2 or 3 days after my surgery, he's like, wanting to have sex. And of course, who has to be on top? I have to be on top. He's not going to be on top. He's paralyzed. So I ride him. And of course, that's thrusting with my lower back. And it hurts. But he didn't give a shit. He didn't give a shit. He did not give a shit about me at all. He didn't care for me when I was in pain. He only cared about himself. And I still had to serve his ass. It became very hard, especially after my back surgery. And no one was there to care for me. It's like, dude, you can bring me dinner. Let's order dinner and you can bring me TV dinner, or bring me food on a tray on your lap. Wheel it in. Anyways, Brett became selfish and I became an angry person because of it. I grew bitter towards Brett over the lack of care for my well-being before and after back surgery. I felt like no one looked after me. I couldn't really rest in the 3 months off because I had to still take care of my paralyzed boyfriend. So I really wasn't truly resting. I mean, I was supposed to be really resting, like not lifting, helping a paralyzed person. No. It became apparent to me that I would always be taking care of Brett, and there would be little to no one looking after me. I became resentful and angry towards Brett, while he became more distant from me. It became a one-sided relationship soon after rather than a partnership based on love. I had realized that his well-being was more important than mine. I had realized that although I still loved loving Brett very much, I was losing out on a lot of life and opportunities that were still waiting for me. So, like, I would rob myself of doing so many things because I didn't want to exclude Brett. So I would do everything that he could do, everything he could do. And if he couldn't do it and I could, well, I wouldn't do it and I wouldn't enjoy myself. And it really started to bother me. And I started to realize that, holy shit, I'm going to forever be chained as if I'm paralyzed. I almost felt like I was paralyzed. So later in the year 2016, Brett and I broke up. My heart fell into pieces the day he left, but I knew it was for the best. To stay together would only make us keep hurting each other. And this is funny. I make the joke because most people walk out the door. He rolled on out the door with his wheelchair. He did leave me. I mean, I didn't really want to leave him, but I knew I didn't want to be with him anymore. But he ended up leaving me. That's okay. Due to Brett being paralyzed, I had to pack all of his belongings. I had to pack all of it. Do you know how hard that is? Oh my God. And get them ready for the day he was moving out. Because I was staying in the 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. He was going to go off somewhere else and he was moving out. I was staying. I left for work that fateful day in the morning, saying goodbye to Brett for the final time. I knew that when I got home, he would not be there anymore. So I went off to work. My shift was usually 6 a.m. to 12. So I would usually leave work around 5:30 in the morning, get to work by 6, come home, usually home by 1. So I knew that when I got home, the place was going to be empty and Brett was going to be gone. Sure enough, when I walked into the door at the end of the day, the place was practically empty. Brett and all his belongings were gone. The place felt eerily cold and vacant, and I felt completely lost. I knew I couldn't afford a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment and decided to move back into a 1-bedroom apartment in the same complex because I'm still getting that $250 discount a month, which is huge because this was in prime area in Fresno, the Bullard Loop, which is like Brawley, Fig Garden Loop area, which is northeast Fresno, but it's nice. Very nice. Within weeks, I moved out into a 1-bedroom apartment in the same complex due to my discount. Unfortunately, it wasn't too long until I lost my discount on the rent due to unexplained reasons that my stepbrother could not provide. And that was because he was married to the owner of the property, Mr. Spencer. So stepbrother Jason and Katie are now having marital issues, and Mr. Spencer doesn't want to support Jason and everything of his family. And so he cut the discount. Thus, Jason had to cut the discount from me. So that was the whole wicked line of a discount, was through a rich MFer here in Fresno who has a lot of land here in Fresno. Just cut the discount because of stepbrother Jason and his infidelities. So unfortunately, it wasn't too long until I lost my apartment due to the discount. I knew I needed to move as I could no longer afford to live in such a nice apartment. There was no way I could afford living in that place. That was, God, I think now it's probably for a one bedroom, it's got to be $1,200, maybe even more, maybe 15. It's very expensive here in Fresno. In January of 2017, I found a cozy studio apartment that I could afford. Ironically, my newfound apartment complex sat on the opposite corner from my preschool. So here again, I feel like the universe is bringing me full circle to where I'm at, where I was a preschooler at preschool. Like it was really cool. My preschool is down the street from where my father and stepmother met and fell in love at their workplace. So, like, here's the corner of Ashland and Millbrook. The corner is a daycare. The other corner is a catty corner is a church, and then there's the apartment complex that I lived in. And then down the street on Millbrook from the preschool was the business where my stepmom and dad met and fell in love. It's also down Ashland, not too far from the apartment where my birth mom put me through some really bad things. But it was just a really full circle. And I was just like, okay. And it's not the best area. It was a humble studio apartment, but it was affordable. I think it was like $850 or $800. It might have been $800 at the time back then. This is 2017. So yeah, it was a lot cheaper. Now I'm in a same studio and I pay $945 for a tiny studio. Behind me is my bed. In front of me is my couch. To my left is my kitchen. Back there is my bathroom. But I love it. I love it. I love it. The apartment complex was also around the corner from where my father and I lived together. So actually, now where I'm living is right down the street from where my dad and I lived when he took me when I was 3 years old to about 5. And so I passed by that little apartment, and the tree that I used to climb and play under, it's still there. So it's like all these memories are all around me. It's really cool. I recall how we used to dance in the kitchen when I was a child. So at that apartment, me and my dad would dance in the kitchen. I read about that. He would dance with me. I have a scar on my knee from a little piece of glass. I still have the scar on my knee. It was also down the street from where Debbie lived in that apartment. Like I told you, my birth mom lived in an apartment where she put me through some bad stuff. After I unpacked all my things with the help of my stepmother, I sat on my porch steps and looked up in the sky with a heavy heart and gaze. What a full circle this is, I thought to myself. I asked God to help me again, to help me find the answers as to why my father passed, why I got into drugs, why I was still single, why all my relationships failed. Again, so many whys. But soon a peace overcame me and I felt a warmth surround me. It was like being engulfed in a warm blanket on a cold winter night. Like when somebody wraps you up in their loving arms after a long, exhausting day. I knew God was still with me. And what another pivotal ending to end on at a time right now when that's all I'm relying on is God and His love and His guidance. Because it hasn't been easy. It has not been easy, but God has been faithful. God has been so faithful. And He's kept me. And I'm okay, and I'm going to be okay. So we are done with chapter 6. Like I said, 8:15, we're going to be done by 8:30. I'm going to let you all go. We are going to resume next Tuesday, the 24th of February. We're going to be going into chapter 7, To Thine Own Self Be True. Cleo is back there playing around with my stuff. Chapter 7, To Thine Own Self Be True. And To Thine Own Self Be True is something that my dad taught me from Shakespeare. It's a quote from William Shakespeare in one of his plays, To Thine Own Self Be True. And he would always tell me that throughout all my life and growing up and in my struggles. He would always tell me to be true to myself, and it's never failed. So to thine own self be true. Have a great night. We will resume next Tuesday. And thank you so much for all the support, for understanding. And I hope that you realize that you're not alone. Don't give up. If you do have suicidal thoughts, there is a free hotline that you can call 24/7, and it's just dialing 988. I put it in the chat. Just dial 988, and you can talk to anybody you would like, and they will guide you, talk you off that cliff, give you just a little bit more time to think about that final decision. Because I'm telling you, in a matter of minutes, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and your brain will change. It changes automatically. You do that, you breathe in, breathe out 3 times, and your thought process will change. If it doesn't, just do it again, because nothing is worth taking your life. Life is not that bad. It will get better. It does get better. And I'm grateful that I'm still here. I'm grateful for my support, for my own self relationship with God. I think that's important, to find a higher power, to find any kind of meaning in anything that we go through. There is purpose and meaning. So you are loved. You are not alone. There are tons of people who love you, and just give it a little bit of time before you react. Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Bye.